will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cantina Club. We're back after a brief holiday break. We're going to pick up where we left off. We are reviewing Skeleton Crew Season 1. We reviewed episodes 1 and 2 in our last episode, and now we're going to jump into the next four that have come out since then, 3, 4,
Wow.
5, and 6. So yeah, we have a little bit more to talk
Have
about
there
this
been
time.
that many?
Yeah, we've on the 31st was episode
Mm.
6. And there's two more to go after this, so I'm sure we'll probably wait and do a wrap up of the final two. Okay, so who would like to start talking about these last four episodes?
I'll start.
Uh,
And you know what? I always forget to do this. I'm going to go and do this. I'm Carillion Traitor. We've got our club secretary, who is Professor Gundark, and
who
and
these days
also
is the last to know all the new stuff. Any Star Wars news, she's the last of those. She used to be the first to know.
and then we've also got Greedo, our resident Rhodian.
Yeah.
And I always forget to always mean to introduce us, and then we just get into the show and I start going. So I always forget to do that. Anyway, that's us. If you don't know that by now, you know where you been. All right. So,
Yeah,
Professor,
get with the program.
exactly, Professor Gundark, take it away.
I want to start with an overview. Say that I'm still very much enjoying the show. We're 6 episodes in now, and when we reviewed the first 2 episodes, we all said how surprised we were at the high quality of it, how entertaining it was. Even though it was geared towards a audience for children, we still enjoyed it. And I also wanted to say one of our regular viewers, who's a friend of mine, he texted me after the first couple episodes, I guess it was, and he told me that he has kids, and he said that this was the first Star Wars show since Mando that his kids really loved,
Hmm.
So I think it's still appealing enough to an older audience, but it's getting the kids interested too, which is really cool. Um, and the last episodes that we covered for a little bit, I was disappointed because with episode 3, um, I I felt it was the weakest episode so far.
Hmm.
And I guess I had it may be because I had a bias, so I had high expectations for it because I saw it was or was it 4? I can't remember, 3 or 4. The one where they find the planet with the soldier children on it.
Right.
That one
That
was
yeah, that was the
directed.
weakest one to me, I thought.
Yeah, that one was directed by the Daniels, the guys who directed the Michelle Yeoh movie that won the Oscars, a year or
Yeah.
two ago. And that movie was just so insane. It was so insane, weird, creative, and fun. And I was expecting them to just let these guys do whatever they wanted, for one episode. So I was expecting to be way out there and really creative. And it was really just kind of standard one episode in the treasure hunt, you know, type
Reminded me of a
storyline.
Doctor Who type episode.
Yeah, I did. It was
Yeah,
kind of
you
like
land on a planet and there's these two people fighting for no reason except tradition, and you get stuck in the middle of it. One part of your group gets stuck with the one guys and one gets with the others. But they didn't have time to flesh it out. It's like half the story was missing or something.
yeah, because they're what, only half an hour episodes,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah, they're
so.
roughly between 30 and 40 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one I thought was the weakest one, and that was the one that Carillion Trader said that he could not. He felt once you fall
Yeah,
asleep, you couldn't get through
I just
that
couldn't
one.
even make it through the first time. I finally went back and finished it. But yeah, so far, honestly, every other episode I've enjoyed. That's the only real stinker in the batch to me so far. Just yeah, I wasn't feeling the way it was. I don't know if it was the way it was written, the way it was paced, or what, but I just didn't care for that one too much. And if I heard and I love the new droid, I do, the 33 or whatever his name is.
Mhm.
I like that character, but if I heard him say I don't remember Noad Atten one more time. Can't say I remember
Yeah.
Noad Atten. Like, oh my gosh. Okay. It's funny though too, because as I was thinking that, one of the characters ended up blowing up and saying that too. Like, will you please stop saying that? Like, yes, I'm thinking the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Smee. Shmee.
Shmi.
Do you have elsewhere to say?
No,
Else more?
Elsmo. Not at this time. No. Please
And
proceed,
what?
Rodian.
Yeah, that's what. No, I meant you. I meant
Oh,
Gundar.
oh.
She was giving her over. She was.
Oh
giving
no,
her
that's
stuff.
just that I'm still really pleased with it right now, and I'm glad that to hear that it sounds like it's reaching a wide variety of audiences. Because I hope that that will maybe that'll give a good segue into Andor. If Andor will be great, as a show more geared towards adults. So maybe it's a good recovery since the disappointment we've had with the last few shows. So that's where I am right now with my feelings about the show. What about
Uh,
Greedo?
I'm just gonna echo what you said. I think it's good. I don't necessarily look forward to it like I do Mandalorian, but I'm not necessarily in the same bracket. I don't have kids to sit there and watch it with. I'm not in their whatever their demographic they're aiming for necessarily. But I like the intergalactic con man aspect of Jude Law's character. As it goes along, he necessarily becomes more kind of cold and ruthless and more of a villain than an anti-hero, which I kind of suspected, but there's still time to see which one he truly is. There was one moment in one of the episodes that I thought was very cold-hearted that he did. The episode where they parted ways with him, basically,
Yeah.
he did some very cold-hearted stuff.
Put the sword to the girl's throat. Yeah.
Not just that, he poured the acid on a whole room full of pirates
Hmm.
who were on the other side of the door.
Yeah, yeah.
And it turned out that you didn't see any of them die, and they seemed okay later, but that was a cold move. That was a stone cold
Absolutely.
move. It might be necessary, but
That was the episode called "You Have a Lot to Learn About Pirates," by the way, which is interesting because it's like you think that he might end up being a good guy, and
Yeah.
Right, and then
think
it
twice.
turns out, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say my highlights for me are I like the soundtrack. I watch the credits just to listen to the music at the end.
Yeah, I do too.
The aliens that they keep introducing and the different people they run into, I think are all interesting additions to Star Wars. And it's very hard when you take the core characters out of Star Wars that we're used to, and the ones they've established, and you got new characters to say, well, what kind of Star Wars characters are we going to run into in the universe? You have to establish some kind of tone, and they've done a pretty good job of kind of establishing a blend of almost satire, like Hitchhiker's Guide type characters they're running into with aliens that are sometimes legitimately scary, sometimes goofy, oftentimes misunderstood, and the kids get to know them and find out that they're just normal people, in alien form. So I think they're doing a good job with that. I also told you guys, I think the volume, if they're using the volume, which they must be on most of these episodes, to me, it looks great.
It does. It has definitely.
It looks like the
improved,
volume version 2 or something. When they were outdoors on that planet with the mud baths and stuff,
yeah.
I thought that looked great. I mean, part of it isn't just looking beautiful or just having the most stellar designs. It's making it believable, like an environment. And when you can see where they've edged out the corners of the room with boxes and stuff, and to like make it look, and then projected stuff in the rear, you can start seeing through that too easily.
Yeah.
They're tricking me again to where I'm not even looking for it, and so I'm enjoying that. The universe feels bigger. Every place they go feels a little bigger. They're small. They have small groups of characters, but it feels bigger. And that's important to me, for world building in Star Wars. We've gone to some cool places, I think. They're not afraid of showing aliens. My one weak spot is I don't know enough about these kids. They still don't stand out to me individually that much. Although there was one episode, the Zero Friends Again episode, that had a couple of touching moments where I thought the girl with the cybernetics did a really good job of somehow conveying, some emotion through kind of all the layers of stuff they made her work through and all the, kind of rote plot devices they were putting on everything. I think she managed to get something through there to where I felt something for her character. And I also enjoyed the way the other characters, you started to see them supporting each other. And every episode's got to have conflict, and I think the conflict has been kind of bratty kid stuff in a lot of the show, and like, you shouldn't have pushed that button. I didn't push the button. You did. You pushed the button, now when you see them actually having some conflict to do with the core of their characters and then resolving it, I think it brings you closer to understanding the characters and rooting for them.
Yeah.
So the way that the kids hung together made me feel more on their side. You know, like like it's divided, but the two that were together showed nothing but support for each other. And if it had been reversed, the other two would, they would have done the same thing.
Right.
So at their core, they're good guys, and I like rooting for the good guys, especially these days. And so that I could use more of that. And I have a weird criticism too. I really like the parents storyline. I know probably no one does, but I would like to see more about these parents and what they know and don't know.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot more going on there than
I
we
think so
know.
too. I think we're going to ultimately have a reveal here where there's something
Yeah.
way more that maybe that's the reason why this planet is being, basically has a cloaking device, as it were, for lack of a better description, that something's going to be uncovered here.
And they have robot servants who are basically their jailers as well. And
Yeah, it definitely seems that way.
then you
Especially
have people.
with that scene when he was breaking into that computer and all that, and came over. That was very much like a jail type situation. It seemed like.
Yeah, Wynn's father, I'm very suspicious of. The actor's doing a good job of conveying some extra nuance under there. Plus, they've gone to pains to make him look older than he is, I feel like. Which I think they're conveying some kind of sense of history there, underlying a person that you wouldn't look twice at. You're like, you think he's a clerk, you would walk right past him, but he might be the guy that actually knows everything, that has put all this in motion. He might be the descendant of somebody put it in motion. In other words, he might be a secret keeper or a gatekeeper. There might be somebody we haven't met yet who's the administrator they keep talking about. I have a feeling it's just a Wizard of Oz type character, a computer or an AI or an Ugnaught behind behind the screen,
behind the curtain,
right? Who's programmed, But anyway, that's my thoughts. There's some things to really like, and but they don't let anything get in the way of just moving along, and I like that. So it's kept me engaged, and yeah.
Yeah, the pacing I think is pretty good. It's better than some of their shows of recent times, including Mando season 3, which I know we always had real pacing issues with that show. At least season 3. But yeah, for me overall, I am enjoying the show. Just except for that one episode, and even that episode, I think the last part of that episode, was a bit redeeming. It definitely was better, but yeah, character wise, I do like the interaction, much like what Greedo was saying. I like the way they interact. Like you said, there has to be conflict in every episode, but it's very much. And I know we jokingly call it Goonies in space, and they were even selling it as Goonies in space.
Yeah.
But it really is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scenes that look almost directly out of Goonies. Especially
I
like
wish it was
when they
more
hit the
like
button,
that.
they're going down that slide. And they're
I wish they had already said, you know what we are? We're the skeleton crew, and we have a secret handshake. I wish they'd already
Right.
done all this stuff. It seems like they're just so caught in the moment that they never get a chance to group build into, use their imaginations, assert themselves more. I think they're going to do that by the end, but I would love to see more of that. But go ahead. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
not at all. Yeah, as far as standout characters to me, I'm terrible with the names. I'm trying to look it up here. But yeah, the one you were referring to, the girl with the cybernetic sort of, the Borg or
Geordi,
whatever.
yeah.
She's like the Borg or Geordi, yeah.
She's 6 of 10. or
Yeah,
whatever.
6 of 10, yeah. 3.5 of 10. Yeah, she seems a really good. They all are doing a good job, I think. The only thing that I kind of tuned out on was to me, again, the episode that I didn't care for, where they had some forced. I just don't like it when they try and force this meaning where I don't feel like there is any. The scene where, again, I don't know the one with the snout, the trunk, the character,
Neil.
the kid character. What is it?
Neil.
Okay, yeah. So when he was saying goodbye to that girl that they met on the planet,
Yeah.
and so the whole time they're having this meaningful, sad sort of thing, and in my head I'm like, you met each other 8.5 minutes ago.
Right.
It's like you guys are acting like you're being pulled apart after like 20 years together, and you
Don't
knew each
you
other
remember
for
what it was like
5.5
being
minutes.
a kid, though?
What's
Don't
that?
you remember?
Crush
You
on
get
her.
one afternoon with you meet some new kid for one afternoon, and you're like
Yeah.
best buds, and then
And
then
she was
their
ultra
parents take them away to the
cool.
other side of the state or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, I guess I'll see you next summer.
She
Yeah, it is
was
crushing.
ultra cool. She was doing backflips and
Yeah,
so he's
and
like,
I don't understand what the point of that was, but okay. All right, see ya. Cartwheel, and then like,
Oh, it was just for fun. It was
like
just
who
for
does
fun.
that? It's
Kids,
just for
kids
fun.
who don't know pain, they don't know pain in
But
their body.
they've already established her as this very serious character. You know, it's like why would she just be going la 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 cartwheels all the time?
That whole episode was missing the middle part of the story because it looked like a very serious war was going on, and then by the end it was a joke of a war. Like
yeah.
nobody ever gets
Right.
hurt.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
episode just that was not very well
I mean,
done.
After
you
the
had to.
father sent his own daughter and he
Yeah,
recruited those children just to use them as cannon
we
fodder,
used
that was
Conan
pretty
soldiers.
neat.
Yeah, I thought they were. I mean, I thought they were going to kill you. They put them into some serious jeopardy in the show sometimes. But I like the fact that the kids still goof around. Like even when they're in
Yeah,
deadly danger, they
they're still
they
kids.
don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't know how to take it that seriously because
yeah.
they
I do
haven't
like that
experienced
aspect.
real consequences yet. You know.
Yeah,
So plus it
yeah, that
keeps
is
it
good.
light. It keeps it lighthearted. It lets us know we're not ready to get to serious drama yet. You know.
Of
Yeah.
course.
I do want to say one thing about the episode. I guess it was episode 5 where the one you have a lot to learn about pirates where they went to the pleasure planet and they're going there. Didn't Jod say something about they were talking about the pirate that owned that ship and he said his concubines, pirate whatever, and his concubine.
All right.
And the
Yeah,
children go, what is a concubine? And he's like, and then
yeah.
and I
Okay,
could
moving
just
on.
hear all of these little kids around the United States turning to their
Yeah,
Right.
parents.
they're
And I'm
turning to
like,
their parents, going,
what
"What
is
is
a
a concubine?"
concubine? And then they go to
Siri.
Rigel 7 or
Yes,
whatever the
that's good. Siri, what is a
Siri, what is a
Right.
concubine? So I was like,
Very
yeah.
true. I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
Yeah, and then they end up at the pleasure planet. It reminded me of Star Trek.
Yeah,
But
Rigel
I
4.
really like the end of that episode that Greedo was talking about, where it gives a harder edge to the Jod character. But I like too how that episode's kind of like an Indiana Jones adventure, where
Right,
they
finding the
go and
treasure and
find
all
the
that.
hidden treasure. Yeah, and
Hmm. And they have
I
the
like
tricks and stuff they have to get through, the
yeah,
traps and
yeah, all of
everything.
the little
Yeah.
booby traps and everything.
Uh-huh.
But the lightsaber, I want to ask what you guys think about this. They found the lightsaber as one of the treasures, and the kid tried to use it against Jod whenever he took the captaincy from Fern. In
Hmm.
such a brutal way. He forced her to hand it over on threatening her life.
Right.
And then we see him. He does seem like a force user. Greedo was saying in our last episode that he thought maybe he was just a huckster and he was just pretending to use the force and using tricks. But I think he really is a force user. And he called that lightsaber to him after the children disappeared down the
Hmm.
booby trap. And you heard it ignite,
Yep.
and they cut to black. And we never saw again what happened with that lightsaber in him. And I'm wondering, like, what is it with him? Was he a Jedi at some
Yeah, I
point?
mean,
Like, what is being implied?
I'm taking it that he does have at least some level of force power, force sensitivity, whether or not he was actually a former Jedi or not. I don't know that. I don't know. I mean, we'll
Yeah.
see. But yeah, they're definitely implying that because at first they made it seem like they were trying to misdirect and say, "Oh, he's pulling some sort of trick," like an
Yeah.
illusion on
Yeah.
them to make them think, "Oh, I'm more powerful. Don't
Then
mess
he
with
knew
me."
some Jedi quotes, like from the Jedi Handbook.
Right. But now he's
Your
actually
reality,
doing
your
stuff
focus
without people
determines your
watching.
reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So it's like, well, if he's
he
doing it
talked
without people
about
watching,
attachments and everything too, about getting rid of attachments can be the most dangerous thing for you. He told the
right.
children one. So it was like, yeah, there's something where
I
he's
think
coming
I think
from
if
a
you
Jedi
we'd have to look
background.
at like all the things he's levitated. Has there been anything that wasn't metal? Because my first thought is he's using some kind of magnetic field that's
Hmm.
in his suit that just never gets taken from him, or it's a cybernetic implant. And maybe he tried to become a Jedi and failed,
Right.
was kicked out or something, but doesn't really have the force necessarily, but likes to use that as part of his persona because a lightsaber does have metal in the hilt. And if
Mm.
Yeah.
you have a magnetic field that you can use every so often, why would you go over and pick up the lightsaber when you can just draw it to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he may just use that stuff sometimes to even on his own. It doesn't. I don't think it means anything, but I'm grasping at straws because I've never. They'd have to explain how a character could do this, something that we've never seen before.
True,
Yeah.
true.
But if
Yeah,
Jedi could do it in the past, there's got to be a technological way to imitate it. It's not that
of
impressive a
course. Yeah,
power to telekinesis. That's got to
yeah,
be. We see stuff floating in Star Wars all the time,
yeah.
repulsors, droids, So there's got to be some way. Just most people wouldn't probably bother, doing that kind of thing. But if you had it as a trick up your sleeve, like a magician, I
Right.
think I
Parade
think
is
he's
a
more of a
Jedi.
magician.
He deliberately cast himself as a Jedi in the eyes of those children. But I think, what did he overhear them in the prison talking about the Jedi? I can't remember
I
the
think
whole
it's going to
lot of it.
come down to this is just speculation. Can we do a second of speculation?
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
I think it's going to come down to in at Atten. There's a lot put on the Jedi stuff there, and I think that lightsaber is going to be a rite of passage for something to
Hmm.
acknowledge. Oh, you are a Jedi, or we can't take orders from you. Basically, to release the money or to reveal the secret,
Hmm.
or so I think whoever shows up there seeming like a Jedi will be able to crack the code of the planet to get what they want, and that might be part. He doesn't know that yet necessarily, but maybe he does, maybe he doesn't.
Yeah.
Also, he's been looking for this place his whole life. There's that outside chance that he's from there, right?
Right. See,
Yeah.
that's actually
How did
touching
he
on
know
what I was
about it
going
in
to
the
get
first
into.
place? You know?
Yeah, that's touching what I was going to get into. What I'm hoping happens is that this is deeper than, oh, he's just a pirate who wants gold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really think that he's trying to get there for a different reason that hasn't been revealed yet. I think that would be a really
he
interesting,
could be one of the
reveal.
guys who was part of it, or is trying to defend it, or he could be one of the guys that was destroying the other planets.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the other one, like gemstone planets or the gem
Hmm.
planets.
Uh-huh.
They're all been trashed to where they've been put back to the Stone Age, basically, where the people there don't know, and they probably been plundered. So he may be trying to complete the job also, but
Right.
hard to say because I think this all stems back to some storyline we're not absolutely filled in on yet. That has to do with the High
Yeah.
Republic and
Yeah.
Yeah.
the history of this planet,
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see Wynn's dad end up with a lightsaber at the end, which could be by why Wynn has always been looking to the horizon instead
Could
of what's
be.
right in
Yeah.
front of him. And he's a
Yeah.
defender there for the planet. And Jude Law
Hmm.
shows up, and we have a lightsaber fight at the end where we didn't expect one.
Okay, how,
Um,
how about this? My husband had a theory after the second episode, but I don't think it's true, having watched more of the show. But he wondered if Ad-Aten might have been a planet that had been set up by the Old Republic by Jedi for Jedi people with Force abilities, like the
To
Jedi babies or
escape the
whatever.
persecutions. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And be hidden
Protect them
there.
from the original Sith
Yes.
Empire or something.
Yeah, and he
Hmm.
he thought that because there was a moment in the second episode where Wim seemed to show force capabilities where he recognized the droid was coming around the corner before it came or something like that. And my husband immediately like this, oh, that planet probably was created by the Jedi, to protect
Well, I
force
mean,
users. So
Phantom Menace has
Yeah.
said he can see things before they happen,
Right.
yeah.
So,
But the children have shown no other force capabilities since then, so I
Right.
don't know if
well,
they're like
they have a lot of luck.
yeah.
Let's put it that way. But they haven't Jedi mind tricked anyone, even by accident. You can see, and
Yeah.
you know, they haven't had any force, sense or done telepathy to each other or anything like that.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting theory, kind of like Children of the Damned or something. Um, it could also be a place where I was just thinking they were trying to save, and I think they've already kind of explained what these planets were for. Um, I didn't pay attention to the explanation, but there was a group of planets that was established for whatever reason
Hmm.
during the Old Republic, and this is the last one left. This one may be special, it may have more to do with the Jedi than the others did. Um, but I think we as Star Wars fans tend to look for more Jedi stuff than there is, a lot of times,
Yeah.
and
True.
more Force
True.
stuff than there is. Now they've teased us with it in this deliberately, so um,
Yeah, the planet definitely
that's
seems
on
like
them.
and the planet definitely seems like it's kind of evolved along its own separate path from the fact that it's been isolated from the rest
Yeah,
of the galaxy. It does seem to have this different sort of mentality than we would see
it
elsewhere
reminds
in the
me of the
galaxy at this
Village.
time. Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like this
That
isolated place that
Shyamalan
hasn't
movie.
quite evolved the same way everything around it has because of its
Right.
isolation. Yeah, I think
Yeah, and
that's
you
definitely
forbid
alluding
flight
to it.
patterns over it, and you have somebody
Right.
guarding it from the outside until it gets forgotten about.
Hmm.
But also, I also had the thought that where do you put people that have potential power but then fail? And maybe the Jedi put
Hmm.
people, children, maybe they give them to families and stuff, and they were part of the colonists that created this planet. Was because we can't raise them because they're not going to come to their full force powers, but they can't just go back in society and
Hmm.
possibly become dangerous rogues or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of ways you could explain it, but I think they'll
True.
have a very specific, story behind it, and we'll
Yeah.
see.
Right.
So, well, what do we think overall? I know after the first two episodes, we kind of gave an overall rating of what we think of the show so far. So let's go ahead and do, I guess, now through the first six episodes. What do we, where's our overall rating so far through six episodes? Who would like to go first?
I'm going to say 7.5.
7.5. Okay.
I
Okay.
agree. That was what I was
Got
gonna
a
say.
7.5.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
I honestly, I think I'm on board with that. 7.5, right in there.
with the
I,
caveat that I'm grading it based on its own merits, not upon
right.
necessarily my desire to go back and watch it again.
True.
Mhm.
True.
Just looking at it trying to look at it objectively as a Star Wars product, I think it's a 7.5. I think it's a hit.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know if people it doesn't mean people will watch it, but I think it's a solid job so far. Like
Right.
you could sell action figures for this,
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job. Also, I wanted to say, as an old school Star Wars fan and special effects and fantasy and sci-fi, Tippett Studios did the giant crab monster
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I
Very
didn't know
nice.
in the
that.
last
That's
Very
episode,
cool.
cool.
and I
Okay.
think they've been involved in some other practical and other effects and stuff, and always good to see that. So
Yeah.
as I think it's really cool anytime they use the puppeteers and the special effects guys that
Yeah.
are
That's
still
awesome.
there, still doing their
Absolutely.
I
craft.
loved that creature, and I loved it when the kids escaped from it, and it just did rage and vengeance through that thing
Yeah,
after them that
Yeah.
exploded their engine. It's just like
Yeah, that was great.
that was a cool monster.
That was good. Yeah.
yeah. Do you remember when we were kids? If we something happened, did we all scream together? Like if the grocery
Probably.
cart slipped out from under us, did we all go, ah, at the same time? Because it seems
Probably.
like a rule with these kids. They have to scream
They had to
together.
yeah, all scream at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah. Ah! Let's try it. Let's try it on three. 1, 2, 3. Ah!
Ah!
Gundark, you were letting out
Gundark's not
a.
participating.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
behind.
No, I can honestly say I don't remember that sound ever in my life, so I
No.
don't think we ever did that. She was too old for that.
I love it.
She was
Yeah,
the one going,
I
"Could
haven't
you be
really
quiet? I'm trying to study. Stop screaming together."
I haven't gone into any deep discussion with Lady Traitor about the show 'cause she's been watching it with me. But I would say if we ever wanted to get a counterpoint, we might bring her in because she
Yeah.
does not seem to think very highly of it.
Oh, really?
I mean, she's not like outwardly panning it, but just kind of little comments like,
Well, there's
eh,
nothing wrong with it not being
and
for
then,
you. Yeah.
what's that?
There's nothing wrong with it just not being for you.
Oh no, no, no,
It's a
absolutely,
kids driven show, and
100%.
if you're
Oh
not,
no, her opinion is
um,
absolutely valid, but
one
it's
of the
just it's
things
funny
that,
these little comments and questions come what did she say the last episode? Like, are they are they actually doing a season two of this or something
yeah,
like that? I was like, oh, I guess that tells us what you think. I was like, no, I think it's just a
I think
limited
kind of a
series.
litmus test was, I might be wrong on this, but the very first shot of their home planet, where it looked like the suburbs, I feel like
Yeah.
if you reacted negatively to that, you'll have a
Yeah,
better
definitely.
chance of shutting off the show
And that was the first thing
mentally
she
as it
said in
goes
the first
along.
show too. She was kind of like,
Yeah.
"Well, that doesn't look right." She's
Because
like, "That just looks like Earth."
that was vital to the premise, but it was
Yeah,
also kind of a bold move, and you might argue kind of a stupid move. But I think
Star
for
Wars
me it worked
suburbia.
okay. But I did look twice, like what? And I've been a little slower to accept the show. But I think people that got that
Hmm.
instantly and knew where it's putting us right in a spot where you can start from.
Yeah,
and everybody, if you felt at home there and it felt like Star Wars to
you
you,
were okay.
then
Yeah.
you're probably on board. If it felt like, oh God, here we go again,
Hmm.
I don't know where they're going. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. That's the number one thing I always hear about stuff is it doesn't feel like Star Wars.
Right. Right.
This feels like Star Wars
It
light to me.
does. It
It feels
does.
like yeah, it feels like what the
Mhm.
holiday special and stuff should have been like. All the stuff they did for
Right.
kids around Star Wars, but then it should have had this kind of quality and everything to
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And I don't
Mhm.
begrudge the kids should have Star Wars. Let them have Star
Absolutely.
Wars. We'll be gone. You can have
Yeah.
it.
All
You can have
right.
all my action figures to play with.
All right, so I guess with that, we'll wrap up our discussion on Skeleton Crew for now. And like I said, most likely we'll be back for a final wrap up after the last two episodes, 7 and 8, in a couple of weeks. So anyway, thanks for liking, subscribing, and joining the channel. Hope you stuck with us the whole time. Please leave us some comments and likes down below, and we will see you next time.
Uh,
Ah.
uh.
Quick question. What is an emergency hold detonation? What is an
Emergency hold
hold
detonation.
detonation?
And I used that. I did some cooler ones, but it was always like crime trina crab, like misspell. It always misspells everything you put in, so there's no point. But I had like three astronauts walking across the planet, and an
Uh-huh.
alien comes out of the crater and grabs one and pulls him in, and it
Oh
said the
wow.
cantina, like all this different shit. But it was always the crime trina crab. No matter what I did, AI was too stupid to learn. So
Crab tree.
Oh, nice.
I was like,
All
"You
right.
need to go back to school," and it was like, "Scroll, it's for fools."
Scrolls for fruit.
Oh my god.